nominate Director Newell, please. If you,
Ex-neighbor.
my ex-neighbor.
Will you let your name?
Yes,
stand,
I will.
Director
Thank
Newell? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to nominate Director Hewitt.
Director Hewitt, would you like to let your name stand?
Yes, please.
Okay. Call for nominations a second time. You have two candidates. Oh, did we do we have our election boxes?
I guess I can. They didn't.
And a third and last call for nominations for the chair of the Central Research Recovery Committee. Hearing none, so we have two candidates. And with that, we will have an opportunity, first we give an opportunity for the two candidates to address the committee. Director Newell, as past President Olmsted, chair, would you like to start?
Thank you. Well, thanks everyone, and I thoroughly enjoyed my years as chair of Central Resource Recovery Committee. I particularly enjoyed, not trying to put favoritism, but working with our two chairs, co-chairs, and on the initiatives that we've embarked on over the last number of years, and with staff, developing those relationships with staff over the last many years. I think the initiative that we're moving on in regard to seeing if there's a way of creating a regional service is quite an exciting endeavor, so look forward to that. And some of the issues that we're dealing with in Central, I'd like to continue to work with the dam, the Roman Narrows expansion, our ongoing relationship with the city of Nelson and transfer stations, and continuing to transfer station over there, and just the ongoing fine tuning of this complex entity within the regional district. I would really like to stay involved in that. And yeah, I think I could, I can leave it at that. So yeah, look forward to the ongoing relationship with this committee.
Thank you, Director Newell. Director Hewitt.
I'd like to thank Director Schmink for the nomination, and I have been on this committee for the past 8 years and have definitely learned a lot. And as Director Newell stated, there are a lot of initiatives that are underway. But my view is that they're worked on as a collective around this table, not individually. And I think that going forward, we can all work together to further the initiatives that have been undertaken by the directors and the hard work of staff. And I'd like the opportunity to be able to work more closely with staff. I think I have a good understanding of what this committee does and how we can move things forward for the betterment of the entire district. Because it's not just this committee, it is at the Joint Resource Committee as well that we lend our voices and our collective knowledge towards. So I would look forward to having the opportunity to serve as chair for the next year.
Thank you. With that, we prepare for the vote. Director Watson, you will send Amy and I via email your vote. Thank you. Okay.
Can I just check, do we have hands in the room or is he not present?
He is a present.
Oh, there you go. Thanks.
Anybody know, were there any specific precautions regarding video, whatever, it all stays normal, right? For the election, we don't, video stays on, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so-
It's my first one.
Have to add a little spice to your life.
Read to and then transcribe it into a vote in the box. And that's it.
You just write it on a piece of paper.
One, two, three, four, five, six, seven.
So there's no tiebreaker. You don't get the, you don't get the privilege like Stuart twice.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Do we leave the room normally? For
Yes.
I thought.
No.
Item 3.4 of our agenda, I declare Director Hewitt as the chair of the Central Resource Recovery Committee and would like to ask you to take over the meeting today.
I'll move to destroy the ballot.
Thank you very much. Actually, I can't take that. I'm not chair anymore.
No, I think that you still do. I think that you still do them.
We like.
have to run another host, right?
That's to mute and unmute the screen here. We're muted right now, or sorry, muted, they can hear us right now.
Yes.
Say congratulations. Congratulations.
Director Cunningham.
Thank you. Do we elect a vice chair? Okay. No. Most committees have vice chair, don't they? No.
No.
Yeah. All right.
No, you do the display.
Okay, we had already a motion to destroy the ballots. Everybody in favor?
You didn't have a second. You just had me.
I
Okay,
thought,
I'll second that.
okay, I thought I had a second. Sorry about that. Vote again? Everybody in favor? All right. I'm voting chair.
All right. Well, thank you very much for giving me the chance. I'm taking a chance on me. And thank you, Director Newell, for your work over the past number of years. And I hope that you'll allow me to lean on you a little bit. If I need some knowledge. So we'll now commence the meeting at 2:12. We acknowledge and respect the Indigenous peoples within whose traditional lands we are meeting today. So move to adoption of the agenda. Recommendation is that the agenda be moved as presented or circulated, moved by Director Woodward, seconded by Director Lockwood. Any discussion? Director Cunningham.
Yeah, and with regards to staff reports, item 6.1, I wish to speak to it, that a motion. Should that be mentioned now? I think you can.
No, I think as we get to that item, you're free to speak about it. Yep. All right, so that's moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Motion is carried. And recommendation that the East Resource Recovery and West Resource Recovery chairs have freedom of the floor. Moved by Director Schwenk and seconded by Director Woodward. Discussion? All those in favor? Motion is carried. And if there are no errors or omissions, that the minutes of the November 25th Central Resource Recovery meeting be received. They have been received. If there's no errors or omissions, just note that they're received. Yes, I think. Yeah. Thank you. All right, so we'll move to staff reports for information regarding the Weimar transfer station. So Heidi.
Thanks, and through the chair. In the face of rising costs to manage waste, staff have completed several analyses over the past couple of years to provide data-driven options to improve cost efficiency and mitigate cost increases within resource recovery. One of the realities of having provided a higher level of service than some similar regional districts over the years is that realizing cost efficiencies may require some decreases in service levels. However, staff strive to maintain a higher than average level of service compared to other areas assessed to support our residents to successfully manage their waste. At the January 2026 JRC meeting, staff presented results and recommendations from an operational hours review conducted in 2025 based on the detailed analysis of site usage data with input from the operations team managers and field supervisors. As part of the operational review, staff developed target site traffic ranges for resource recovery facilities, taking into account distance and average travel time to the next closest transfer station and core recycling depot, as well as operational infrastructure to support waste data entry. The use of these criteria helped to standardize accessibility to waste management across the region and promote efficient and cost-effective operations based on actual public usage of these facilities. Based on its proximity to other resource recovery facilities, the optimal site traffic range for the Weimar facility was set at 10 to 20 visits per hour. Analysis of site traffic data identified that usage of the Weimar transfer station was generally below 10 visits per hour throughout the year. Table 1 outlines the current annual operating costs and the cost if hours of operation were reduced by half to 3 hours per week. As staffing is a small fraction of the annual operating cost, it's estimated that reducing operating hours by 50% would only result in an 11% decrease in annual costs associated with this site. In addition to these costs, as shown in attachment B, there are cracks in the bin wall that impact its structural integrity. If the site were to stay open, the bin wall will require an engineering assessment and either repairs or replacement. Based on recent cost estimates for a similar bin wall at Marblehead, it's estimated that this work could cost up to $200,000. While this closure would require a change in waste management routines for those in Area G who use this facility, residents in this area would still have a comparable geographic access to waste management facilities as rural residents across the west and central subregions, and a higher than average level of access than many other rural areas in the RDCK based on the nearby facilities having the highest number of operating hours in the region. Staff maintain the recommendation from January to close the Weimar transfer station, but recommend delaying by 1 month to give time to shift waste routines as needed. Thanks.
Thank you, Heidi. All right, Director Cunningham.
Yes, thank you. I read the report. It contains a great deal of interesting information, but I do have some comments to make, and after that, I would like to, first of all, as you know, the Weimar as a site has been open for 35 years, roughly, give or take. And it was first put, there it is, because the Weimar residents would go up that same road, past where it's now the recycling, and around the corner, they would dump their garbage, their old cars, mess. At one time, there was even a horse carcass parked on the side of the road. You know, I mean, it was really, really terrible. And we were taking kite flyers up to the top of the mountain there, using that road, and they'd look at this mess and they'd roll their eyes, and I don't blame them. So we talked to highways about it, and of course, to the district about it, and two things happened. Highways worked on that site. They pulled out at least 30 old cars that were off the road. They cleaned up the road because the cemetery is just past there. They cleaned up the site so the cemetery could be opened up and used, and it has been improved. Now it has a beautiful cast iron heating. And around the corner where the main part of the dump was, where the garbage was dumped, they covered it with many, many truckloads of dirt, and then it was seeded. And then now if you go up that road, it looks quite respectable for a road, and you know, and it's because we have that transfer station in that spot. Now, so the question is, what about its cost of operation? And we did I looked at the cost of operation. I see the numbers, which said Weimar is around 10 visits per hour. Well, it was not my suggestion to open it from 3 hours per week to 6. If it was back at 3, we would be having 20 residents per hour, which is the recommended amount. Just to say. Also, although when we look at the numbers, it costs more to take care of the recycling than it does to take care of the garbage. And I would suggest that we remove recycling from that site, because Selma was only 10 kilometers away and has a full recycling site that could be used by the regional district site. So if we did that, we would save an additional $14,000. So therefore, that would change the numbers significantly. As you know, it would change them from, okay? Just a second, where it was and all my numbers. It would, I think, change the site from 41,000 to 33, 41,000 to, 41,000 to 30,000, $33,000. Now there was a significant change in cost. The other thing I think, here we go, sorry. The listed amount here was 46, presently, and with reduced hours it goes to 41. But if you further took out recycling, which is 14,706, the price would be, the cost would be 32,000. So that's a significant drop in operational cost. Also, I think what has been missed is that Weimar is not really a rural area. You'd like to think of it as a rural area, but it's not. It has over 700 residents in that Weimar area who use or could use that landfill. So that does not make it a rural area. I dare say that Silverton, which is 1/3 the size of Weimar, has some facilities that are, anyway, I'm not going to comment about other facilities. This is about the possible closure of Weimar. And therefore, Chair, I would like to have a reconsideration of this. First of all, I think the idea of waste on the road, if we get that back, that's going to be horrible. And that's what people are going to do. I would suggest instead that we modify what happens at Weimar to go from 6 hours per week to 3 hours per week, as it used to be, and to take close the recycling area, and the recycling will be done in Selma, which has a big full service area, and it's only 10 kilometers away. if we had a full free services. Okay, now, it has been talked about, well, why don't we just close it and have people have a garbage pickup and people can pay for it? Well, I went and checked on some prices, because we are 40 kilometers from the recycling center, the cost of picking up garbage and hauling it will be significant. In other words, significant to the user. Now, since it's the users that pay in the end anyway, whether it's through taxes and user fees or paying somebody privately, I would suggest what I'm suggesting is the most efficient way. I have heard people from areas E and F complain because they are paying for people to come up and pick up their garbage, and they say, well, garbage pickup works well if you're in a close knit area, you know what I mean? Like a small village or like Salmo or Silverton or New Denver. But it doesn't work really well if you've got spread out places with country homes and things like that. Even if you have a significant population. And I've heard the residents of Director Newell's area, for example, and I believe maybe even Director Newell, complain about the cost that they have to pay for a private hauler to come and pick up their garbage. So I would suggest that is not a good solution. And the idea of having 700 people or 700, the equivalent of 700 people to haul their stuff over to CanX, or excuse me, up here, is just not really a good idea. And CanX is worse because we all know what the mechanics was like. It's a gravel road up to it. And people use it, and we use it for our composting. But however, as the idea that we're going to talk, the equivalent of 700 families into moving up there, 700 people rather, into moving their garbage up there is not really realistic. I really think and for what it's worth, I broached this idea to the Weimar Community Association. I spoke to the president about it, and to say there was a great deal of discredit about it. I don't think we want to get into the kind of thing, and I'm not saying it's going to happen, maybe, but you may recall the ostriches and what happened with this room and ostriches and people complaining. I'm not saying I don't want to do it. That influence the proper financial decision, but I would suggest that that's going to happen with the proposed move. Therefore, Chair, I would like to move that number one, that
Director Cunningham, maybe I think we've got a couple other, well, at least one other question. I'll take questions and comments before I take your motion. If you don't mind, thank you, Director Lockwood.
Thank you, and I appreciate Director Cunningham putting forward for the residents in the Weimar area and fighting for them. Although that's not the complete picture that's been drawn out to us, where just taking the recycling out of there and having just the garbage transfer station there, it does not fix a bin wall that is looking at needing to be repaired. And we have pictures in front of us in the near future. Maybe it's 4 years down the road, maybe it's 1 year down the road. We don't know when that's gonna collapse or need to, we know that things change in government all the time, our regulations. So, and we may have a room full of people that are going to come and try and lobby and try and get it to stay open. But we've had a room full of people that have talked about how high their taxes are. And this is a way that we make it fair for all of our residents. We asked our staff to go out and find out what makes sense to everybody. And they did the fair thing across everywhere. Director Jackman had, said about the Google using the crow, flying crow thing. And so I understand that, but we don't have that issue with Weimar. Weimar can go either to Nelson or it can go to Salmo, and it's going to either one of those places anyways, to either work, to medical appointments, to get groceries, to get to do different things. So I'm not, I understand, but I'm not in favor of going forward. This is not just removing a couple of $1,000s. We're looking upwards of $40,000 or so or more this year, with the savings of $200,000 in the coming years. So I'm not in favor of going forward with this, and all municipalities have their garbage picked up. I understand, but you talked about Silverton. Silverton does not have their garbage picked up. They actually had one, I believe, the meeting that I watched is they closed down something that benefited them in order to help the greater good of their taxpayers. So I'm gonna stick with what staff's suggestion is here, and that's all I have to say.
Director Newell.
Yeah, just through the staff, where is the closest to downtown Weimar, the closest transfer station for waste disposal?
Chair Heidi, do you have those numbers handy? My recollection is it's a little bit closer to the Salmo, facility,
The Groman?
and then Grumman, yeah. I don't remember if you have would you have the kilometers or time?
I'm just opening the file right now. It is a large file, so it just takes a second. "21 kilometers to Central, 35 kilometers to Groman."
No supplemental?
I think I'll do a supplemental. It is difficult, all of these are difficult, decisions when we're reducing service. Which we, fell into as we transitioned with, RDC, et cetera. I think that we have to accept that, irrespective of how close a place to drop your garbage off is, some people will continue to use the forest. But what I do think is that there's not really evidence to say that closing certain ones has resulted in an increase. That, I'm not sure of, but, I think we have to realize that some people, they just have to take it. I think the bin wall is really a legitimate concern. And so, factoring in with the 40 current hours, 46, or the reduced hours that Director Cunningham's talking about, which would bring it down to 30, we still have to factor in a large amount for capital improvements. And I think this is just part of our process. So I am in support at this point in time of the staff recommendation.
Thank you, Director Newell. Cooley.
I think the correct number, if the recycling depot closes, would be $26,000. Because it's a further $14,000 reduction of the scenario that's shown with $41,000. Heidi, if I'm incorrect, please correct me.
Sorry, the closure of the recycling would basically reduce either of those options by about 15,000.
All right, Director Jackman.
Thank you for granting me freedom of the floor. Aside from having to chair a difficult meeting in January, from what I thought into this anyway, because I consented without talking to my constituency to one day introduction in Boswell. What I was wondering from staff is a better understanding of the savings. Had Boswell had to be open today, the snow clearing cost would far exceed the cost to staff. And in a normal winter, that is our problem with these little sites. So I think the director's proposal to reduce by 1 day is a significant savings that maybe hasn't quite been considered, because unfortunately, for public and staff safety. You've got to go in, push the snow away, put down salt, gravel or grit or whatever's required, because you can't be working around these bins on icy conditions. And we get a lot of those conditions because of our freeze cycles, so I wondered if the cost savings from 2 days to 1 day, maybe in the winter, weren't fully appreciating that sacrificing 1 day saves far more than just the staff. It saves a lot of snow clearing. The other consideration is we did a straw poll in many areas now. We'd like to know if staff can recollect what happened in Director Cunningham's area on curbside. And it seemed to have a weak response, period, and that negative response. I found that disappointing. But I think Director Cunningham's area is a prime one to maybe repeat that exercise. And one way to do that would be through a staged closure that you say, look, you're not gonna spend 200K on the bin wall. But what you're gonna tell the constituency is maybe your director's recommendation is to do it 1 day per week for so many months. During that time, sufficient time to revisit the curbside option, which is better for everybody, because you make money on it. And tell the people, you're down to 1 day. This is under extreme scrutiny. Maybe you better reconsider this curbside option, especially if it's too extreme. And give that time for that process instead of a shock and disenchantment with the regional district, which will probably get you a negative response just on its own on revisiting curbside. Just say, look, this is real money. Here's a staged reduction as Area A is going to see, and as you'll hear tomorrow, I'm going to make my recommendation on Riendell. And maybe you need to look at curbside. And Riendell started looking at curbside as well, but informally. That was hard on staff to do that. But I can see moving into this in a slower, staged approach to bring the community around to the long-term best solution would be to have them working with the regional district, not against the regional district, and consider a year from now that they need to be in the two-stream curbside if that's at all feasible.
Thank you, Director Kathleen. Go ahead.
Small comment in regards to the snow removal, because Amy and I had that discussion today. It doesn't cut the snow removal in half if you go to 1 day, because you still have events when the servicing contractor goes in, so that might require a second service. But it definitely will reduce it, but we can't really nail down how much.
Director Schmink.
Thank you. Prepared to staff a couple of questions, and that is, do we try to understand we have a license of occupation on that site, and is there any further responsibility if we would close it? So, as an example, I recall that site, and it was horrendous prior to the highways cleaning it up and something else being done. So I just wondered, are we also saying if people start dumping there, we're just going to say we're going to ignore it? What's going to happen? And I'm also curious, what's the cost of demobbing that site? You need the concrete to dig up, and what's that? There must be a cost for that as well.
You want to take that one?
I can try. We have not costed out the site remediation, and you're certainly right, removing the concrete walls and some grading, likely some data control in the surrounding bush. That's typically any waste site that's there for a long time, is something we likely would have to do, and removal of the small building that's there. So there is a cost. We have not done the costing exercise, how much that would be.
Did you have a supplemental?
Yeah, I think you don't know, so, but in fact, it might be more significant than you anticipate.
Any other comments before I go to Director Lockwood
I'm in chat.
Oh, sorry, I was watching for a hand. Then Director Watson, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. And my apologies, Heidi, if I missed this. I honestly had no time to read this agenda, so your report was all I got, but I saw it last month. Too much in 1 week. My question is the asset management. The bin wall is, I think operationally, I can I can support a reduction in hours and that addresses some of the concerns. But my bigger financial question is actually related to the asset management. Obviously, I did look at the quotes from Marblehead and noted that you referenced those for this facility. What do we know about the long-term asset management for maintaining this site regardless of operational hours?
I think attachment B is the report that was done for the site assessment. So we had staff go recently up there because we had exactly that concern about the integrity of the wall. Detailed assessment in regards to the fencing and railing materials up there, but more so the condition of the bin wall, which is different from most transfer stations, a poured concrete wall with cracking and some washouts on the end of that transfer station. So there are strong indicators that this wall is nearing end of life. I'm a little bit with what Director Lockwood said. It's a bit hard to say if it's 1 year or 4 years or whatever that looks like, but we certainly would do further assessment and would very likely in the next budget round have it within the 5-year horizon for replacement.
Supplemental?
Yes, go ahead, Director Watson.
Yeah, my sincere apologies that I haven't read all the material. I'm just being honest about it. I did see that report, but I didn't understand it, actually, the bin wall one, so thanks for articulating. My question, which will likely bite me when we get to Marblehead, is would Community Works qualify for upgrading these assets? Should the community and Director Cunningham be advocating for it to continue in service?
Is the first part of that?
Yeah.
He was wondering if community.
Yeah, I wanted
work-
clarification too. That is the question that because we are replacing Marblehead, that there is a strong business case for retaining Weimar as a transfer station?
No, I was just calling my own bluff, and that if I suggest Community Works for Weimar, someone might suggest it to me for Marblehead.
Oh,
That's
sorry.
what I was saying. And I don't have the money for Marblehead, so.
So the question is, does Community Works qualify
Yes.
for that? Yes, it does, Director Watson.
Okay, well, I do know Director Cunningham is out of Community Works, but I just was curious on that. I think asset management's my primary concern. I think operationally, I'm not super concerned. But I understand communities that want to continue being serviced, so a bit of a difficult one. Thank you.
Director Lockwood, did you have another question, or you were just bringing my attention to my oversight?
No, I'm wondering when we have, when we're trying to be cognitive of taxation, and we have a community that is, as the director said, that feels or has heard that they will be coming in here. Is there an opportunity to start, and I don't even know what to call it, but like a subservice that if this community wants it, that they can pay into something to be able to have it happen, to be able to continue it happening, where you have all these other ones that are available, and because I think of Area G as not just Weimar and surrounding area. Area G is quite large, and what I've heard is, why don't we have one out at Meadows, which is the other end of Area G? Why don't we have a transfer station out there? We gotta come all the way in to do that. Why doesn't Weimar, which Weimar to the recycling, as Director Cunningham said, is 11 kilometers to the recycling. So you say it's 21 kilometers. I would beg to differ. It's not totally 21 kilometers. I would think it would be less than that. I don't know where you were measuring from to get the 21 kilometers to the transfer station. but it's probably closer to 19 kilometers. So all I'm saying is that's from one area. So when we talk about 700 people, how far out is that going in right around Weimar? That you're calculating those numbers? That somebody that lives on the south end of Weimar is going less than somebody that lives on the north end of Weimar. And then you get out to Meadows and you have that same thing. So why shouldn't they get a transfer station that's a bin and a recycling? And I understand you wanna take the recycling away, but why shouldn't they get that same opportunity? We cannot do that because that's what's gotten us into trouble with taxation, where we have all of this available. It's kind of like saying, why isn't there a hospital in Salmo? We don't have transit to get anywhere. Why do we not have a hospital in Salmo? Well, we just can't have it all. So I understand, but what I'm asking, is there any opportunity or ways that if a group wants to pay into something to make it continue to happen, can that happen as a sub-service in a service? I don't know.
I don't know that we have necessarily the examples for a sub-service within a service. I would suggest if then and properly done, it would be a standalone service. We have one model in Rylandale where that is the case, but historically the case, they have a waste service, and in fact, we're in our analysis of the proposed closure of the recycling center in Ryandale have calculated the financial contribution and the advantage that East Resource has from that facility. So they have a standalone service. I believe it's S189 in your budget that provides waste services to the community of Ryandale. So there's a service area, there's establishment bylaw, and with all of that in the current configuration, it is front load bins that are serviced weekly through a commercial contractor that remove the waste. They have established a bag tag system to pay for the service, coupled with a taxation associated with that service. So in short, the example is in place in other areas. It is possible. I don't want to speculate about establishing a service within a service. We have our problems already when we look inequities between different regions. We have a lot of discussions about does everybody get their fair share or is anybody over contributing? So the more we embed a service within a service, I think that discussion is just going through the roof. I would not suggest it. If anything, we are attempting the opposite of pulling out services like septic or whatever out of the resource recovery section.
Thank you.
I had Director Popoff first. Sorry for missing you earlier.
Yeah, thank you. I'm just listening to the conversation. There's all kinds of solutions or whatever. But I just like to relate my experience having closed the Lindla Recycling and the Silverton transfer station, and it didn't really affect Silverton that much. It affected a lot of Area H residents all the way up to Enterprise Creek that were using that facility. But it did make logical sense. They only had to drive about 10 kilometers further to New Denver to utilize that facility. The Winlaw facility, well, yeah, that was, I got a lot of feedback on that. And being the director or whatever, the director gets the feedback, not necessarily the staff. We are the front line. So I'm looking at this, and I'm looking at the retaining wall condition inspection reform form. And I don't know how to interpret it, but from what Manager Wolf said, it might have a lifespan of 2 or 3 years, or if that, might have to be replaced. So I do have a suggestion, and it doesn't mean anybody has to follow it, is to make it more palatable for the residents in Weimar, is knowing fully well that you'll have to replace that wall,
reduce the days of operation and continue the operation until you can justify that the wall is a danger, it has to be removed. And then you have a good palatable excuse for the residents to eliminate.
Thank you, Director Papa. Okay, Director Woodward.
Thank you. I just wanna say, I wanna actually say thank you to the staff, because I think this table in general gives staff direction to cut taxation or keep taxation low, and staff goes out and does that work at the best of their ability and delivers the report. So I kind of feel like there's a little bit of like precedent setting here that, you know, you can pull something out after staff does all this work that was actually recommended by the table to do. So I'm just it makes me feel a little bit uneasy, because they're doing what the table's asking them to do. And then now they do the work and they give the solutions that are available, and the table then loops around and taxation continues to climb. So I think it's in the city, we're constantly battling, trying to keep taxation low, trying to deliver services the best we can, but somewhere you have to shave the edges to make it all work. And I think the thing that gets me on this particular one is $200,000 is going to have to come from somewhere, and that is going to be a taxation increase. So I just want to say I want to thank staff for doing the best they can, and that they've given this as a very clear way of keeping services equitable and taxation low. Or keeping taxation under control, I should say.
Thank you, Director Woodward. Okay, so we'll go then, I'll go to you for the close, Director Cunningham. Director Newell.
So thanks for the discussion. So now I just thought of something else. So this is why it's coming now, is I just thought of this. I noticed, or I thought as I was looking at it, I forgot to ask about what the revenue is per year from that 10 visits an hour, open for 6 hours for 50 weeks. It's like 3,000 visits. And if they're only bringing a bag each, that's $4 or $5 almost now. So that's $12,000 at the minimum. And I just wonder if that's factored in, or did I miss something or whatever. So
So
through the staff, thank you.
through the chair, we had budgeted just under 17,000 from Weimar as revenue. It looks like the projected year end is just over 20,000, maybe 23,000. But that is not factored into the cost, because we're making the assumption that revenue would then move to Central or Groman. So we're still expecting that similar level of revenue, just at a different location.
Supplemental.
Yeah, go ahead.
So what I'm hearing is that our revenue stream would stay the same. So this in fact would be a net or gross, anyway, a savings. Got it. Thank you.
All right, so we'll go to you, Director.
Just add one
Oh,
item.
yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, thanks for that. So, and just to clarify, the 200,000 in the cost to replace the wall is an estimate. So that is using some of the values we got out of Marblehead, and since the report, the cost estimates are attached to this agenda as well. So it's in the 150,000. I will note that that's expecting to reuse about 60 to 70 blocks. So that would be a different cost, and we don't know. I think the Marblehead incident really highlighted these are sort of the last two, I think, of the walls that are of that era. And I think in a lot of ways we were quite lucky that there wasn't more of an incident around that. So staff is concerned, and we would certainly want to have it assessed, and whether or not there's a potential for a repair, or what, if it needs to be replaced, what that actual cost is. So just a reminder that 200,000 is a placeholder.
All right, so we'll go back to you, Director Cunningham, and you had some resolutions.
on the question, but a motion forward. Uh, Okay, the question, and here we go. The number was mentioned 200,000, that was rough, but I see from the other one it's 150,000. For a new bin wall up up there. But the other, of course, and the other thing is it doesn't need to come out of taxation, it can come out of my committee works or whatever. And yes, I have, one of the directors suggested I don't have any money. Yes, there's money there, because that got paid out over the last 3 years. Now, so I use that money, there wouldn't be any taxation, for if the bin wall needed replacement. Also, when we used the, when I talked about saving money, whatever, I took the area covered by a service we already have, the Weimar Community Association. And I took the assessment we have and I multiplied it by the amount that we pay. And so the people of Weimar are paying more than their share, actually, for waste management than they need to, than compared to other areas. So I don't know that that's considered fair either. Further, if we started with my proposal, which was to remove recycling and with the saving of $14,000, and also change the hours. By the way, it's not 2 days a week, it was only 1 day a week that this area serviced. So it's only 3 hours, 6 hours a week now. And to change it to 3 hours, people were fine with 3 hours. When I went to 6, they said, well, isn't that nice? But really, it worked with 6, with 3, I mean. And I think that to reduce it was entirely okay. I don't think that's going to burn anybody too much. And that would reduce the cost from the proposed cost from 46,000 to 32,000. We mentioned already that the amount collected there was what, 20,000 or something like that. I'm not sure. I forget. But I do know the amount paid for by taxation by the people in the area covered by the Weimar Community Association. Which is probably a little smaller than the area covered by the is really well in excess of that. So they are paying their share. And to think that this is a real savings, I don't know that it is. Perhaps if we had a subservice, we could take that tax money that we're paying to and then pay it to an independent contractor who would then pay. I don't know. I'm not going to suggest any of those things. And further, there was something else. I'm sorry. Okay. However, and of course, the bin wall, yes. So I'm going to suggest, Madam Chair, my motion, and okay, I would like to move that. Thank you, staff, for your report. I appreciate it. I know you worked hard to develop it. However, the motion is that the Weimar transfer station hours be reduced from 6 to 3 per week, and that the recycling position be removed from there because Cell was only 10 kilometers away. Okay, and further that the question of the bin wall be looked at over the next year, and that this question of putting the closure be put off for a year while those kinds of assessments are done. And that would give the people of Weimar a chance to realize without it being dumped on them in the space of just a few weeks. I know that that it's difficult. What can I, and I also, but you remember the service has been there for 35 years, roughly, give or take. And the people have been using it for 35 years. And for 35 years, we've had a road that was past the transfer station. And the rest of the road out there, that where we, by the way, we do professional kite. We have a professional kite flying instructor in town. And he uses that road all the time in a minibus to go up there and take people to the top of it. And they don't have to look at tons of garbage, crap or anything like that around. And that's also been saved. I have heard some, and I think those are the reasons why I think that we need to keep the Weimar facility where it is in the long term. And so, as I said, I would be quite willing to use, if for the amount of the repairs, and again, I read the report on the bin wall and it said there were some solid sections and there were some that makes the things like slapping and there's all sorts of, but I think that it sure shows you that maybe we haven't been doing our proper maintenance the last few years up there at all. In other words, maintenance time that needs to be done. And I would suggest that we postpone the closure of Weimar for a year. That's the first motion. And the second, or did I make it all one motion, Chair?
So let me, can I get what you've captured so far? Because I think you usually do a very good job of summarizing.
Yeah, so the first part I got was, that the board directs staff to reduce the Weimar transfer station hours from 6 to 3 hours per week and to close the recycling depot. And further, that's where I lost things a little bit. I had in further that the bin wall replacement be reviewed over the next year and closure be reviewed. I lost things a little there.
Yeah, if I may, Chair, I'll reword it as best I can. Okay, yes, the first was that we, the number of hours be reduced per week to be reduced from 6 to 3. And that was my first item. The second, that the recycling service at that location is closed. And the residents encouraged to take their recycling to 10 kilometers to Selma, which takes way more than the Weimar one ever did anyway. Excuse me. And thirdly, the question of the bin wall, we looked at it in the incoming year, the price redeveloped and to decide upon the feasibility of this replacement. In other words, I'm looking for a 1 year postponement with perhaps more than I have looked at. I've done a fair amount of work on this thing and I've looked at, and as I said, staff does a wonderful job, but I can't expect them to look at everything because, you know, there are certain things, and we always, every time we get a staff report, we make suggestions about how to amend it and to improve it or whatever.
Okay, thanks, Director Cunningham. I'll go back to see, have the motion read again, so we're clear. Or if it's better split into multiple motions to.
Yeah, I'm just
to make
gonna
it-
get clarification on, is,
Okay,
do you want to?
Let's let staff read it back and one segment at a time and then get your agreement on them and then we'll discuss it further.
So is the motion to reduce the hours and close the recycling depot starting soon, or do you want that to happen in a year?
no, right now.
Okay, and then,
So the sake, if I'm.
and delay the closure for a year?
We're gonna do that, delay closure for a year while we look at these capital expenses like the bin wall.
Yeah.
And give the residents a chance to adjust the possible closure. But in the meantime, we will be saving money by reducing the number of hours and removing the recycling.
So Amy?
Yes, thank you, through the chair. I'm trying to recollect why we moved from 3 to 6 hours and sort of when that occurred. And I feel like it was when we brought on the recycling and somewhat to do with some concerns about traffic at the site. And I do know some engagement with the operations staff in the last week or so with the consideration of change in hours. There was some concerns about staffing that, which we did previously, but that the staff generally don't appreciate the short shifts. And another point about closing the recycling is I'm concerned about what that's going to do for diversion, because if people have to drive 10 kilometers or 10 minutes to go to recycling, why can't they do that for waste? And if they're not going to do it, then that stuff's going to end up in the garbage. So there's a few things in this motion that I would maybe like to take back and think about as staff and what those impacts of those changes might be before we just do that for the next year and go forward.
Chair,
All right, so we're still trying to settle on that was what was read back, what you wanted in your motion, before I look for a seconder and you speak further. Does that capture the intent of what you wanted in your motion?
The intent, although there was a mistake.
So,
If I
okay.
may, just the previous speaker was an error when we said we can get rid of garbage in Selma because we can't. Here's the recycling we can take to Selma, because Selma has a district recycling center. Garbage, that has to go to Nelson or to Canex. And Canex is 21 kilometers, it's way closer, but nobody wants to go the long way when they can go to Nelson and do their shopping, or to Trail and do their, you know, in other words, if you're gonna take your way, your garbage, then you want to be able to, yeah, so the people who do use Canex will be the ones who live to the south of Selma, where Canex is just a matter of 5 or 10 kilometers away.
All right, so thank you, Director Cunningham. So we've got the motion. Is there a seconder for that motion? Seconded by Director Schmidt. Okay. For the discussion on the motion, now that we've officially got it on the table.
We
Can we possibly have it in chat? I guess I'm the only one on chat. Just read, if Emma could read it.
That the board directs staff to reduce the operating hours for Weimar transfer station from 6 hours to 3 hours per week and plan the closure of the recycling depot. And further delay the decision of closing the site for 1 year while the bin wall replacement project be reviewed.
So what I'm gonna suggest is that the first part be done as stated as immediately, and then the second part, the delaying, be a separate motion.
And further,
Yeah, well,
No,
totally separate, I think. Cause they're related but unrelated, cause we want the reduction in hours and, but you stated a month, correct? Originally when you spoke for those things, or did you want them immediate? Cause it'll take some time.
may I? I don't
Yes.
know that you can totally separate them because you cannot reduce the hours and not close the facility. So you can't have a resolution that speaks to delaying the closure, because either you close it and then there is no change in hours, or you have a change in hours, which automatically implies that the facility stays open. So the second resolution is strongly tied to the first, in my opinion. The only question is for how long, or what the process is to bring it back, if there is one. So I don't know if it's a standalone resolution. That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay, Director
First
Cunningham.
resolution would be to, that the facility remain open for a year. Because the closure was planned for a month now, okay? That's the first resolution, remain open for a year. The second resolution would be that therefore, that the number of hours per week be reduced to 3, and that the facility, recycling portion be closed.
Effective immediately, or
That's right. Effective immediately or effective within, whatever the time it takes.
It would be always with a transition period of announcing and informing the public.
That's okay.
okay.
Exactly.
All right, so moved and seconded. Any further discussion before I call the question? Okay, so all those in favor? And opposed? And Director Watson. I didn't see your hand, Director Watson.
Yeah, she would, yeah.
Okay, so then that motion is defeated. Okay, so do we have an alternate motion, Director Lockwood?
I'm just trying to get my computer to come back on. So I understand, thank you, Chair. I understand, that staff has recommended that we close it in May instead of April. That doesn't say May 1st, doesn't say May 31st. What I'd like to propose to be able to help with the residents that use this transfer station, and satellite recycling, is that we take the recycling away. I don't, if somebody can say if it's the beginning of May or end of May, maybe that's something that needs to be in there, but take the recycling away by your May 1st, but then change the transfer station to 1 day a month for June and July to allow those people to get okay. We don't have to worry about snow plowing, we don't have to worry about any of that, but then if you're giving them the opportunity to get used to going somewhere else. I don't know. I don't know if that will help or if it will be more of a hindrance. But I do believe that we need to do something for our taxpayer, and I'm not sure how it was figured out that why this area is just paying for that. But I can't figure that out in what we have in our budget. So I'm just trying to figure out how do we adjust them into doing it? Do we do it right now that we say it's only gonna be open every second week, starting now? Starting, I don't know, March 1st? And we go extend it 2 months longer, but it's only open 2 times a week, which is gonna be the same amount of time of closing it in May.
Amy had comment? Or you? I should have gone to you first.
So actually I did, I think don't we already have a motion on?
It's not in the agenda. It just, so I was struggling to try and find what the motion was. It was articulated at the beginning of the meeting that staff stood behind the recommendation, but to delay it for a month is what I understood. Heidi, can you clarify, please?
Yeah, the motion is also on the report. It's the last sentence of the report, that the board authorized staff to plan the permanent closure of Weimar Transfer Station and Satellite Recycling Depot in May 2026. But that is a good point that it doesn't have an actual date.
Director Lockwood.
Thank you. In our last meeting, that was a joint meeting, it was in there for April 2026. And I think that that's what is the confusion here, is that now it says May 2026, but it doesn't have a date. It doesn't say May 1st or doesn't say May 31st. So if we could clarify that, but what I'm asking staff is if we started March 1st and said, we're only gonna have it open 2 days a week for 3 hours a day, starting March 1st to July 1st or June 30th or whatever, how does that affect our budget in the sense of if we're just doing this where we're closing it May, whatever, I don't know what the date is in May. It makes a difference because if it's May 31st, that's 4 Sundays. If it's May 1st, there's no Sundays. So that's why it's hard to decide on what would work. So staff could say if it was at the beginning or end.
So to clarify, I believe it was only 1 day a week that it was open already, correct? So, yeah. Director Woodward.
Thank you. So I mean, if you just put the date, the last day of May, might be not exactly sure.
3.
May 31st. So that is 1, 2, 3, that's 3.5 months from now. So that would be a chunk of time to customize the residents of Weimar that this is happening. So that would be 3.5 months to do that. So you could just add May 31st to the item on the agenda.
Director Lockwood, does that work for you? Because I think we don't want to start doing
Extra.
making extra work for staff, partial closures, and then because staffing will be an issue, right? Because they'll, right, because staff has to be mobilized to go to the site, and if there's only part of the staff, and they need some time to work on that piece of it, right? You don't just say next week that they're not going to be going. So Director Lockwood.
Okay, so thank you. So if we if we're going to May 31st, that's 13 Sundays. If we go to June 27th, which is a Sunday, and go to 2 days a month, it's only 10 Sundays. But it gives them an opportunity to have it longer to be able to get used to, so it's actually less time. I understand about staff. And I don't know how that would work. Like, right now, staff doesn't know if they're gonna be there May 1st or if they're gonna be there July 1st, because it doesn't have a date in the resolution, so staff doesn't know anything right now. The meaning the staff that's working there, right? So that's what I'm wondering is if we go starting March 1st and we do 2 Sundays each month, opposite Sundays, until June the 27th, which is a Sunday, we have 10 Sundays, where the other way, changing it to May 31st is 13 Sundays. So all I'm doing is, we actually are saving more money, but we're giving the residents more time to get used to going. Some of them will wanna get rid of their garbage every week, cause that's what they've been doing. Some of them might only go twice a week or twice a month anyways. So that's all I'm trying to do is, how do we give them more time to get used to going somewhere else, which actually saves us money?
So I'll go to staff to see whether that is feasible, from your perspective. Because there would have to be an implementation, which was the 3-month window that was provided in the original motion. Yeah,
Okay, so through the chair, you will do twice announcement of changes in operations for that facility. First, the changing to a bi-weekly schedule, second time about the closure. You will have to work on rescheduling the employee that goes there from a weekly to a bi-weekly schedule, plus the communication around how that staff member is reallocated after that period. So that's what you will do as a minimum a second time. I don't know if it will have any effect in regards to the servicing waste we do ourselves. Recycling is through GFL currently, so that may be not majorly affected, but there's a little bit more organizational work to be done if you go that route.
Thank you.
all right.
I'm just was throwing stuff out there.
Oh, okay, so you're not actually making a motion, you're just suggesting something. So we'd like to get, I'd like to get us off this item because we need to finalize budget.
I'll move
So,
the motion that staff has recommended.
okay, so, you were seconding that?
I'll second this, you're seconding, sorry, you're moving the motion on the agenda.
Yes, that staff to plan the permanent closure of Weimar Transfer Station and Satellite Recycling Depot in May. I need a date. Do we want 31st? What do we want? May 31st, 2026.
Okay, and seconded by Director Woodward. Discussion on that motion. All right, so all those in favor? Not watching. Was that Director Watson? Sorry, I didn't see your hand again. In favor of the motion in the agenda. So
I'm not opposed. Sorry, I had to find the motion. It wasn't on the agenda, so I had to find it. Got it. I'm good.
okay, so then I saw 4 in favor and opposed. Okay, and I guess we don't record negative votes in committee, so, okay.
Can I just have that of clarification before we head on? We made the motion at the joint resource to close it for April. Did we have to rescind that motion?
It was referred to this meeting, was it not? And, yeah,
Chair, it went to board, it
Yeah.
was not moved to board, and we moved referral of board to this committee.
yeah,
Thank you.
So-
Thank you.
so
Thank you.
the motion is in line, so that motion passes.
Sure.
Director Woodward,
I just need to fill the table. I have our city council meeting starts at 4.
okay,
So I will have to leave at like 10-4 to make that
All right,
at City Hall.
so
Soon.
I know this one was a very sensitive one for Director Cunningham, so we gave a little extra time with that. So we'll go then to the Nelson Leafs Eco Depot funding. Akani, did you want to speak to that? Okay. That way, nice.
Through the chair, today I'd like to present about the financial plan inclusion request for Nelson Lakes Eco Depot funding. As we all know, the Nelson Lakes Eco Depot is the only year-round eco depot in the RDCK that accepts number of products that are managed by extended producer responsibility programs, as well as the hazardous waste materials that are currently not included in the recycling regulation. And as it was shared by the Nelson Leafs during our joint resource recovery committee last month, they are playing a very significant role in their community for recycling diversion. And in 2025, they collected over 250 tons of materials and served 4,600 customers per month on average. So they've been addressing that. They have significant challenges for securing their storage spaces, and also with the recent announcement from the Ministry of Environment and Parks regarding additional items included in the recycling regulations, that will actually lead to more pressure to the Nelson Leafs Eco Depot to secure their storage space. So the Leafs have reached out to other EPA programs, of course, and they have successfully acquired another 20-foot sea can from the Interchange Recycling. And they additionally reached out to the RDCK for additional 20-foot sea can, which we currently have in the Central Transfer Station. And also this is currently owned by West Subregion, so staff recommend Central Subregion to purchase this one from the West Subregion, which we are relocating to the Nelson Leafs. And the Nelson Leafs currently got approval from the City of Nelson for their building permit variance. So they still have certain things that they have to comply with this variance, but then it was nice that it's got approval. And the Nelson Leafs therefore have requested funding for purchase, relocation, and modification of the sea can and site preparations to have those two sea cans on their property, their leased property. And so this funding request requires adjustment to the draft 2026 financial plan for S187 refuse disposal, since it was last reviewed by the Central Resource Recovery Committee. So as the section 2 states, staff recommend increase to grant account 57010 by 21,400, and also increase to transfer from reserve account for 5,000 by $21,400. Because of the breakdown, as you can see in the table under section 2, we have to purchase the sea can from the West Subregion, and the moving cost of the sea can, as well as the modification, installation of roll-up door, and footings and foundations and other site preparation costs will be about $21,400. Therefore, today's staff recommends, as you can see in the report.
All right,
Sure.
thank you. I had Director Watson with a question before.
Okay.
Thank you. Director Watson?
Yeah, thanks. 2 questions. The first one is, it says that Nelson Leafs Eco Depot received a grant to do this, but we are taking the money from our reserves to do this. So I'm a little confused. Who's paying for this, and what's the grant that Nelson Eco Depot got going to, if it's not going to the acquisition of this sea can? And then I have a follow-up question.
Okay, Uli?
Through the chair, this is how we address the budget item in our budget, in our financial plan. It comes in from reserves as revenue, goes out as a grant to an external organization. That's why we call it grant. There is another grant that is provided by Interchange for an additional bin, particularly in regards to the additional materials that are anticipated from expansion of the program. So there's in fact two grants that we are speaking, but the grant from us is the grant line item in our financial plan.
Did you have further?
We addressed it, just that there was an additional grant from interchange as well, not item in what the report was referring to.
And you had supplemental?
Yes, sir. I didn't hear what Amy said.
Oh, she just reaffirmed what Uli had said.
Okay, so the request to us is to take from our reserves to pay for a CCAN for Nelson Eco Depot. Have I got that right?
Yes.
Okay. Support them. That's awesome. We are severely under reserved for our assets. So I have a concern in taking $21,000 out of our reserves when we haven't been putting into reserves for 8 years and we're having to increase taxation to address our asset management. So would this not qualify for another granting stream? Could they apply to ready funds? Could they apply to community development for various grants? Our reserves are what we talk about in the service all the time, and that we haven't been contributing to reserves. So I'm hugely concerned about taking from reserves for an asset that is not actually the assets that our reserves are for.
Uli?
Yeah, so we are waiting as staff for the outcomes of our Eco Depot RFPs for Creston, Castlegar, and Nakusp. Depending on the outcome of these RFPs, we expect to return to all of the directors, so Joint Resource Recovery Committee, and have the essential discussion in how far this board is willing to support EPR programs through additional funding. Essentially, that's what we are doing here with Nelson Leaves. So far, limited and focused on used oil and hazardous waste products, and particularly on materials that are not covered under the program, but appear at these depots. But clearly, in order to make Eco Depot concepts work, it is very likely that any operator, and that is the discussion that we are having with Nelson Leaves, are going to tell us that the reimbursements from EPR programs are insufficient to pay for the programs that alone create a mild profit from it. So what I anticipate is that our RFP will tell us exactly that, at which point US directors will be required to make a decision around our current position. It's at least 10 years old, where we say we do not subsidize EPR programs, with the exception of what we do with the Nelson Leaves. That we say we insist and continue lobbying with the ministry and EPR programs to have a reasonable cost structure and cost reimbursement in place to make these EPR program deliverers able to make mild profits from it, or even sustain without a profit. But currently, in most cases, this is a money-losing proposition. The only reason why this current Eco Depot Nelson Leaves is able to sustain it is because they have a fairly large bottle depot that they can attach the services to. If it wasn't for that component, there's zero business case for them to deliver the other EPR programs, and that's reality. So there's a bigger discussion to come forward if we as regional district continue the path we have been going, continue lobbying with very little success about better delivery of EPR programs, or if we say, as we did with RBC, with Recycling BC, at some point we gotta recognize that our lobbying efforts are not fruitful, and that we have, or our residents are better off having these services delivered, even if that means we subsidize it. So that's the decision making to come in the future, and see it in that light. This grant is very specific to the household hazardous waste materials and the used oil program. The reason why the additional storage is required is because the separation of these materials happens within the building, taking away from space for other programs that they deliver. So we got clarification in a recent meeting with them, because there seemed to be conflicting messaging going on what this is being used for, but clearly it's the sorting inside of the building, taking away from other EPR programs that could be stored in the building. And therefore, there's a requirement for that additional bin. And it is clear that given with that information that we as staff fully understand the request for that additional bin, even that there is an additional bin going to be provided through interchange, so the used oil EPR program. In addition to, they do look for other funding. They are in contact with CBT and have discussions with them about additional funding, but clearly there is needs in various corners of that service delivery. And I'm afraid that's exactly what we will hear out of our RFP process that is currently underway.
All right, so I'll go, Director Schwenk.
I had a supplemental.
Oh, sorry,
Yeah.
Go ahead, Director Watson.
Yeah, sorry, Uli, you went down a rabbit hole there. I couldn't. Anyways, I just want to know how much financing is going to this. So my other question is, last time I checked, I believe in our budget, we have $100,000 going to the Nelson's Eco Depot for operations. Is that correct? Or what is the number for 2026?
Through the chair, that is very close. I have it open now. It's double check. And I guess one thing to point out while I'm looking for this is the reserves in the service are right around $1 million in the regular reserves. We've kind of turned a bit of a corner and we're doing a lot better, and the contributions are increasing through the years. We're also using them quite heavily in the next 3 to 4 years. And that number, that 21,000, that's an up to amount. And actually, after the decision of today's meeting, we might be able to repurpose the Weimar C-Can rather than purchase the other one up west. So their 21,000 is sort of the upset level. The depot contribution in 26 is budgeted just under 150,000, and that's split almost half and half with the lease hosting and the disposal costs of the materials. And with the new products coming in with the recycling regulation, maybe not tons this in 26, but in future years those will be onboarded. But some of the materials, the moderate hazardous materials, will be onboarded in the recycling regulation. So we might see the disposal portion of that bill reduce as those programs get onboarded in the next few years. But in 26 is 150,000.
Just to be very clear, that half for disposal of materials is for materials ineligible under the program. So that's materials that they get over and above what is acceptable under the program and that they accept. So this is, in regards to household hazardous products, a significant volume and very costly to get rid of.
Last comment, Chair.
Okay, go ahead.
Sorry, staff have really merited the purpose of doing this. I'm not debating that. I'm debating the fact that when we're faced with residents who want us to not increase taxation, we need to somehow note when we're going above and beyond for servicing that is not available in rural areas. Currently, with this ask, we're looking at $170,000 to go to an eco depot that is outside of our responsibility. That's the note I'm trying to make. I'm not saying it's not a good call. I'm not saying it's hugely valuable. I'm just saying this is where money is going beyond our responsibility, and that needs to be noted. Thank you.
Okay. All right, I'll go to Director Schwenk.
Thank you. Through the chair, just looking at the report, over 50% of the cost of this project is footings, foundations, other site preparation. I'm trying to better understand. Generally, when you plop a CCAN down, you put, some concrete pads down. You don't spend that kind of money. I'm just correct. There's a requirement for that, or what the background is.
So background is that there's a flood proofing requirement, so these bins are elevated because of the creek being nearby. So that's
Okay,
that's
that's
the
fine, thank you.
biggest trigger for that.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, I was gonna say.
Sorry, I was fast.
Yeah. And we should look to staff for that first, so,
Sorry.
all right, Director Cunningham.
Yeah, sure, who owns that building?
Through the chair, it's privately owned. I don't know the name, it's a
It's
family.
privately owned and leased by the Leafs.
Okay, Director Lockwood?
Thank you. Through to staff, I'm gonna go down, hopefully not a rabbit hole, but the same way that Director Watson is that, and I heard staff say, is that we haven't gotten anywhere with our lobbying. What happens if we said, we're not doing anymore? So our waste management plan is out there, it says what we're gonna do, it doesn't break down this kind of thing. In order to push back on the provincial government to actually make a point, like we've done this with our taxation, we've lobbied you guys for, I don't know, umpteen dozen years, and there's no responsibility, it falls on the taxpayer, which it always falls on the taxpayer, but how do we get the people that are producing this stuff to be responsible in what it costs to recycle it? How does that affect us if we say, nope, we're not taking anymore, we're at a limit, we're done, province, figure it out?
From me?
Yeah.
You had last month a presentation by the Nelson Leafs. You saw the volumes of materials they accept, specifically to used oil and hazardous waste materials. There's zero service in the regional district other than Nelson Leafs and our events that we are providing subsidized, obviously. So these materials, we have to assume to a certain degree will end up in our facilities or worse, somewhere in the bush. So that is the significant concern, particularly when it comes to hazardous substances like household hazardous waste or used oil. So that's a conscientious decision we need to make. We, as regional district, both on political and staff level, have repeatedly pointed out that the EPR programs are not meeting their own set standards in their plan. They submit regularly plans every 5 years. They are, I think it's 5 years, they are approved through the ministry. In regards to used oil, and just because that's something I have looked myself a little bit into it, we went from, I think originally about 16 depots in the regional district down to 1. That while we were lobbying for increased servicing, so our lobbying didn't go anywhere. Very similar with household hazardous waste, not that we had depots, but if it wasn't for our events, and I would argue we have put increased efforts in delivering events, because in sites like Creston, we simply could not service and people went home before they could unload. That's the only servicing ability that our residents have to get rid of household hazardous waste. We can conclude if we don't do that, the materials, they can only stay so long in a shed or in a basement or outside of the house. At some point, they end up in the waste. And that's the decision we have to make, where we say, yes, we'll live with that back at our facilities or on side roads, or sometimes they're just thrown in front of. Talk to automotive shops, they find used oils when they come to their shop in front of their door, right? That's reality. And like I said, the US directors can decide and say, it is what it is, and it's just part of our increased lobbying to let it escalate. But say at some point we have to see the reality that we are unsuccessful in our lobbying. But again, that's not the discussion I wanted to initiate here. It's just came naturally out of what we are asking for.
So just to my fellow people, I just want to put forward that maybe we need our board chair and our 3 chairs go on global and say, this is what it's costing taxpayers. Like, I don't think taxpayers understand. We keep talking about taxes. I don't think they understand how much this is costing. And the provincial government, we just, as much as we're doing the lobbying, obviously we're not moving that needle, and maybe we need to become more vocal on it. So.
If I may, again, that is exactly what we wanted to bring before you as staff after the RFP is closed in March, and I think it's March.
Yeah.
End of February. So we will bring that in March to you with the options that we have in regards to both lobbying or going out more aggressively to the public or whatever that looks like.
All right, so did Director Newell, did I see your hand or no?
No, it's okay.
Okay, so I'll go to Director Woodward then.
So I just want to say that because Nelson Leafs came to council also and gave a presentation, and this is happening because the demand is so high. So I think the demand is there, and they're being kind of dumped on when they aren't open, and they have to basically they're matching the increase in use, and it is very toxic stuff that needs to be taken care of. So. And it is a very regional service. People are coming from all over the region to use this service here. And it doesn't end up in the creeks and inside the road.
All right, and Director Woodward, I think we started where you were going to make that, move the motion in the agenda.
Yes.
Okay, we have a seconder for that motion. Seconded by Director Schmink. Say, any further discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, that motion is carried. And I will point out that we're at 3:39 and we've got a hard stop at 4:30 for staff. So we've got 3 more items on the open agenda and an in camera. So if you can keep your comments on the next items succinct and to the point, that would help us move forward without having to move any of these items to another agenda, which I don't believe there is the option to do. So we'll go to you for the next one.
Great, through the chair, just giving a verbal presentation here regarding the license of occupation with the city of Nelson for the Nelson Leafs Recycling Depot. So the current one has expired on the 31st of December last year, and the city of Nelson reached out to the RDCK for renewal. The next term will be January 1st, 2026 till December 31st, 2027. And both the city of Nelson and RDCK agreed to apply 2.3% increase in rental fee for this term. And this 2.3% increase came from the residential rental rate increase limit of 2.3% from the provincial government. And as a result, the total annual fee for this term will be $61,438.84. And after the drafted license of occupation document was received, the corporate administration of the RDCK was reviewed, and they suggested a few minor changes, which is under section 17 and 20. Basically, they're just suggesting a few items to be removed from that section 17 because the Municipal Insurance Association confirmed that the member of the Municipal Insurance Association cannot have the right to waiver the other members from the subrogation. So it's something that's really minor. And also they suggested remove the other items underneath, which is also minor. And under section 20, it is mentioned about how notices should be delivered and received. the corporate admin suggested that the same conditions should be applied to the RDCK. And also it should also specify to whom any notices should be directed at, and also have contact details added to the document. And then staff will bring this back to the city with all the suggested amendment request. And if that's accepted, staff recommends the board approve the RDCK enter into the license of occupation with the city of Nelson for the Lakeside Recycling Depot for the period of that this has to be amended. That's an agenda. It says 2 years, but has to be 1 year from January 1st, 2026 to December 31st, not 2028, 2027. And that the chair and corporate officer be authorized to sign the necessary document. And further, that the cost be paid from Service A117 Recycling Program Central Subregion. For about the era.
Sorry, through the chair, so it would still be a 2-year term, but the end will be December 31st, 2027.
Cheryl, move that.
All right, but I want to clarify something I heard you say, that it isn't actually finalized. Can we actually move this motion as it is, or upon a mutual agreement or something? Because from what I heard you say, it still has to go back to the city of Nelson for final approval. So can we move the motion as it's actually stated in the agenda? Because it says that we're agreeing to this. Is it pending city of Nelson approval, or?
The chair, I don't believe we sent back the request for modification to the city yet.
Not yet, the waiting time. before the-
So
So I'm just questioning whether the motion as stated is what we actually want.
right, with the inclusion of the upon mutual agreement of adjustments or something.
Through the corporate admin department, didn't think there would be a problem putting it on the agenda as is with the changes that we would require, that we would request, because it was so minor. So they advised that we go forward with it. If you want to amend the wording, we can change that to the recommendation.
Well, leave that up to staff, but just from what I heard, I just questioned whether that was what we should be voting on right now.
Through the chair, suspect that the chair and corporate officer wouldn't sign it if those amendments wouldn't be made, and then we would return it. Unless there's something we can build into it.
Cheers on the line.
Okay, Director Watson.
Yeah, sorry. Can I go
So,
ahead?
sorry, I made the comment that if the chair is comfortable with reviewing the final agreement in regards to that minor change in the agreement, or if we should bring this forward next month.
I can't hear what Emma says, honestly, so I don't know what those minor changes are. And generally speaking, when it comes to signing contracts, I rely on Mike Morrison to catch these details. So I would not be comfortable making a signature on something when I haven't fully grasped what it is we're changing. And if the council still needs to make changes, or their staff, then we should not be signing this at this time. And then I have questions on the actual agreement.
I suggest we bring this forward next month.
Sure. So then I would look for a motion to refer this to the next meeting.
Refer to the next,
Okay,
wait,
The next joint.
to the next joint meeting, because we have
So-
one central meeting a year,
so the March central or March joint.
March joint.
Can I ask a question before you refer? Because I'm not here in March.
Okay, go ahead, Director Watson.
I'm just curious, is this not the property that originally was like under 10,000 to lease and then it jumped to 60,000? And are we really paying $60,000 a year to lease a property for Nelson residents to use from the city of Nelson? It's just excessive.
Through the chair, same property, yes.
Yes, it is the same property, Director Watson, and please be mindful of what I had said at the beginning, that we've got only a short period of time left to address the items on the agenda. Director Cunningham.
Thank you, yes, the rate we're paying is double the double, and, so, it's actually for the land, and, all this, you know, I would like to suggest, Chair, I have trouble voting for this, because I didn't vote for it last year, I don't believe, and I'm not gonna vote for this year. I would suggest, instead, that we look for alternate property, because we're being taken to the fingers.
Okay, we don't have the time for discussion such as that, where we are looking at this time at a motion to refer. Director Papa,
On referral,
well, we haven't made the motion to refer at
May I
this
make
thing.
a motion to refer?
So what Director Lockwood wanted to make that, and so a second then
I'm
on
looking
referral?
on referral, but I'm wondering, because of what Director Watson just said, is that we don't bring it back until April.
Will that work?
If I may, we should be clear when we are discussing or want to discuss the rates, we are already into that period that we are trying to sign a document for. So not normally the time that you renegotiate the terms of the deal, but I suggest we bring it forward. So I'm hearing in April. Again, we will be 4 months into the term with no other options to deliver the service anywhere. I don't know how strong directors believe the position is in regards to negotiating this. We certainly can look at a shorter term. We know we have looked at other properties with not much success. We know that we are currently investigating an expansion of Groman with all the difficulties that come with it and more information to come forward. But please consider that when we make statements about we are taken to the cleaners.
So right now, we're on the motion to refer, nothing else.
Is it
Director
seconded?
Papa, it was seconded by Director Schwenk.
Yeah.
Yes,
yeah, Deputy Chair, if I
on
may.
referral.
Yeah, on referral, should we not have a dollar value attached to that? But
Where-
it was a verbal report, they mentioned a dollar value, so it's public information.
It's in the agreement.
It's in the agreement, and we're talking about referral. We'll talk about it again when it comes
Okay.
back to the table and so it was April, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So referral to the April meeting on referral.
Yeah,
So
you don't
the
have to move it.
propriety of referral, I would say that it's completely inappropriate. And it's our legal responsibility using the land and having had this financial arrangement with the city of Ellswood for 5 years now. Give or take, 5 or 6, and we did voice our concern at the time, but then accepted it, so it's, I believe in the propriety of referral, that it's inappropriate and that we should enter into the agreement that we've been in with the city for the last 5 years.
So you're speaking against referral. All right. Director Watson?
On referral, we need the actual agreement, so I do support referral to March, not to April.
Okay, but the motion was made for April now. So an amendment to March? Okay, all right, are the mover and seconder fine with March? All right. So I'm gonna call the question, referral to March. All those in favor? All right, so then that motion carries.
We
Director Newell,
opposed.
okay.
And the
But
agreement
it's
is
committee, so
here.
we don't note, right?
No, I know,
yeah.
but I just, well,
Yeah.
the agreement is here. Like someone said, we need to see the agreement,
Yeah.
but I've got it right here. So, anyway.
All right,
Sure. Yeah,
yes.
I have to go.
Okay.
But I have a request before I go that I was so hoping to do in camera, but we're not getting there.
No.
But I would like to make the request that in-camera information be released to council and staff, so you know, after the vote.
Okay.
That's all I'm trying, I was gonna make that request Sure, but I would like to make that request now, so I won't be here.
Well, we'll have staff note that, and if somebody wishes to make that motion when we're in camera. All right, so we will now move on to the verbal report regarding the Marblehead Transfer Station bin wall.
Yes, just as council and staff. Thank you, everyone. I'm sorry I have to go.
Thank you, Director
Yeah.
Woodward.
Right.
Amy.
Thank you. So through the chair, we wanted to provide this cost estimate at this time. We've had the site assessed by our engineer and so the costing that you can see is
Sure. Thank you.
$155,000 to replace the current single bin wall. And then we investigated a second bin option. Operations staff have made that request. The reason behind that request are currently the overflow bin that we utilize at that site is just open on the end. So there's some concern about safety and more so the hauling efficiency of loading a bin that way versus when you drop it from the top, it compacts a little bit more. When you're just throwing it in the end, it doesn't necessarily fill up the bin quite as much. And there was a few sort of minor things that related to those two items. So hence why we got the 2 bin estimate. You can see that it is double the cost. There is a little bit of potential for purchasing the same, so we're intending to reuse a lot of the same blocks. There's a number of those blocks available in Slocan from that transfer station upgrade. So we may be able to purchase some of those blocks from the West Sub-region at a lower rate than this has here. So it might not be quite double, but still it is quite a bit higher. Staff did a quick assessment on the hauling efficiencies and how that would relate. And it was going to take a number of decades before that cost savings for that hauling efficiency was going to catch up with the capital investment. So our intention, unless directed otherwise, is to move forward with the design of the single bin wall to replace what was lost. We are investigating insurance and we've passed on the information and we're not certain what's going to happen in that regard. It could reduce some of the cost for the railings and potentially the whole bin wall itself. So the budget value for this year that was included when we spoke about the budget in January was 200,000. So this is within the budget estimate and replaces what was lost. So as mentioned, what our intention now would be is to give the engineers direction to move into the detailed design and then move into the tendering, and then we would return when we have the bids for request to award, and then the intention is to move forward on this as soon as the site is dry enough to proceed with the construction. This probably early summer.
Thank you. Director Watson.
Yeah, thanks. A few questions on this one. Sorry, I was echoing. First, Amy, it's been a long time since I've been at that site. Is it currently 1 or 2 bins?
Through the chair, it's 1 bin.
Okay, thanks. I'm not going to debate the cost. There's no way I could debate those. It's unfortunate it's so high. Even though we have $1 million in reserves, we can see how quickly that can be used. My question is actually more related to the road and the road to the transfer station, which has been pretty much impassable. I was up in Hauser 2 weeks ago. It's not our fault, but is there any intention to lobby Modi to see that at least the road to Marblehead is maintained differently? I think that has a lot to do with, I'm sorry, it's slightly outside of this, but it has a lot to do with the access to the site, the hauling impacts and all that kind of stuff. So when we're engineering and doing things like this, I just needed to include the actual road to the site is horrendous and breaking things.
Through the chair, I can share that staff has been in conversations with ministry a number of times, partially in regards to the road restrictions. They have moved the restrictions to just beyond our transfer station so that we can still service the site. And we pointed out the condition of the site and requested grading. They said they would get to that as soon as conditions allowed and the road wouldn't be damaged by it. Aside from sort of general ongoing maintenance, our operations supervisor, Larry Brown is quite involved with trying to ensure that the ministry is upholding road level requirements. I don't know what else we could do in this situation other than keep asking them to maintain it.
I won't ask more about the road, that's fine. There's no motion required from us on this. This is just an update, correct? Or do you need us to move a motion on the 1 bin versus 2?
Through the chair, I don't think we need a motion. I was just looking if you had an alternative direction for us to give us, then we would investigate that. But otherwise, our intention always was to replace replace what was lost. I just wanted to I wanted to investigate for the operations team's queries what the cost difference would be. So now that we've seen it, I just wanted to present it and demonstrate why we would only be moving forward why we will move forward with the 1 bin unless there's other requests or other funding that you would like to put towards it.
Louis, did you have something that you want to add?
No, I pass, thank you.
All right, so that was for information. So who is Director Schmidt? Oh, sorry, Director Schmidt.
Just for information, I'm going to call the building of the walls, but I'm quite familiar with that because we've done several long, 12-foot high, 380 feet long. And you can access blocks much cheaper if you buy in bulk. About one delivered to our business, about 1/3 of the cost. So if you want to have any inquiries, just let me know.
All right, thank you. Director Lockwood.
Very quickly, because is the Weimar transfer station just solid concrete, it's not blocks?
Correct.
Okay. Don't need to go any further.
All right, so we will now move to item 7, which is the 2026 to 2030 financial plan review.
Yes. Thank you. So this time we're looking at it, we have lapsed all of the sections that were not modified. So what I wanted to share is on line 34, proceeds from equipment financing. The compacting trailer that actually was received, I believe in the last week of December. The short-term or the equipment financing did not advance in 25. So the items highlighted in blue in the one row from projected 2025 that previously had 300,000. That 300,000 is now moved into the 2026 line, and there's an additional trailer coming in 26. So that's why it's duplicating it, and the purchase of value was the 267. So that's why it's not 600,000. So just pointing out that we rolled that borrowing revenue into 26, and we looked at trying to also have the expense come out in 26, but it was received in 25. So they'll be in separate years. That was cleared through finance, and that was their direction. The other item that we had here is the line 304. So the value there of 15,000, that was an estimated value that I had previously received before we got the footings from, the quote for the footings and various things from the Leafs. So that I would actually adjust to the 21,400. And again, that's an up to amount, but that changed since we got the agenda prepared. And then line 305, This is the additional item that was attached to this, the agenda item. So we put it just for circular economy projects, but the main recipient for this year, and so I did have it continuing, but for this year, so there, as you can see from the handout that was attached, there's an organization that's been hosting Repair Cafe events in Nelson. We've inquired with them about doing it at other locations throughout the district. So far that their only interest is doing it in Nelson. But they've had some very good success for their first year. And so this is to assist with essentially for the venue rentals and some small consumables. And I think there was also a request from Recycling Council of BC to do some targeted communications on textiles and textile recycling. And so that's why I didn't specifically only put the Repair Cafe, is because the Repair Cafe's request was actually $3,000. So I've added the additional $1,000 for supporting the Recycling Council of BC in that. So that up for discussion. Line 306 is the backcountry wilderness. We did speak about this last time. The only reason why I highlighted it is because we are in discussions about, in addition, that funds was largely going to be attributed to tipping fees that they did cleanups. We will be doing a more fulsome report, I believe, in April on sort of how that funding process will go and who that funding can go to, because it might not be just the one organization. But another thing that they've asked about is a four-wheel drive vehicle to assist, and we have a few surplus units within the RDCK we're investigating. So more to come. Again, we're not changing the value, and more will come in the report. I just had that section open, so I thought I'd make a comment about it and see if anyone had any questions. On line 308, the contribution to reserve is adjusted to reflect the funds, the additional funds going out in the grant. Otherwise, there wasn't any other adjustment. So questions on that you pointed out.
Director Lockwood.
So I have a couple of questions. So in here, we just went through the leaf thing, Nelson Leaf at 21.4, but this says for 15,000.
Through the chart, this was updated. That was my estimate previously, so that I would adjust that to 21.
Okay,
yes.
that answers that question. My question of the Repair Cafe, we've never had a delegation or anything. So how did they get even $3,000? How did that, because the first time I ever read about them was in this report. So how did it even get to the table? I just want to understand that process.
Sure, through the chair. So I met with the organizer of the Repair Cafe a year and a bit ago, but I think it was before they were hosting any events. At that time, they had other funding, and sorry, I don't have it off the top of my head, to assist with the rental fees. Their ask at that time was just to assist with advertising so that we would help market the events. I think that the funding that they had previously has finished, and so that this is them looking for an alternate type of funding.
Right, so supplementary, I still don't know the process, because this has opened up a bag of worms that a group did not come to the board or to this committee and asking for funding. Right, so they came to staff and asked that way. And so that's what the questions are, is that what groups are supposed to do? Where we've had the Nelson Leafs that gave a delegation of what they're doing. And so I'm just looking for clarification to be able to say to people, no, the proper way is to go through a delegation to say what we're doing, how we benefit. the majority of the people, and going that way? Or is it the way that we should be just going to staff and staff putting it in and having the discussion that way? So that's where I'm going with that. I'm not saying to take it out or anything. I'm just saying that we need to figure out what process we're gonna use and stick with that. Don't flip back and forth because it's very confusing for the public, because I believe that staff will get bombarded. And if you're done with, that's garbage, right? Or is that the whole, cause I have something in the budget that I want to talk about that's not, it's the yard and garden. Are we going into that one? Or is that part of this one?
For the chair, the yard and garden would be funded through the service, yes.
Okay, so can I ask my question on that, or do you want?
I'm gonna go to Director Newell first.
Absolutely.
Because.
No, asked and answered.
Okay, thank you. So if you can do it quickly.
Yeah, my question for the yard and garden is that, I'm constantly looking at how do we save tax dollars? I know that Salmo has a program that our taxpayers actually pay to have it done twice a year. And we went out to our taxpayers and said, do you want to continue on with this service? It costs our little community $6,500 a year to do that. We take care of our stuff, so that doesn't go to the RDCK, but the Salmo taxpayer also pays for the free yard and garden. So I'm proposing that we don't actually give it 100% free, that we actually give it at 50%, that people actually have to pay for part of it.
Through the chair, sorry if I missed part of it, but my understanding is municipalities are eligible to that, for that free yard and garden when they do those roundups as well.
What do you mean? You still have to bring it. I'm talking about yard and garden.
Maybe clarification in place. Clarifying question. Is the amount that your municipality pays for the collection only? Or do I get the impression you are doing some processing with it?
So our staff, the village staff goes around, picks up the yard and garden from and deals with it within our municipality. Does not bring it to the RDCK. Okay, so we pay as a taxpayer within the municipality to do the same thing that the regional district gives to everybody else. Although the Salmo taxpayer is paying twice because they already pay for that service that they can do at the RDCK, or they can have because they come right to your house and pick up your stuff. So what I'm proposing is that at the RDCK is that we give a 50% rebate. So if it costs, I don't know what it costs to take up there. Because then we're holding people that everybody's being treated equally to some regard.
We'll go to Director Jacqueline.
Thank you again for being able to speak. I don't see this as just being a budget item, but it not require an amendment to the fees and charges bylaw, which won't happen one shot, not prepared, not before any of us. We have to see a bylaw amendment before their reading and adoption. So it's more complicated. Good discussion for the fall.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for that reminder.
All right, so anything else on this, Amy, other than the large contribution to reserves?
Yes, no, nothing further. Yep, I'll make, in fact, I think staff has already made those adjustments in the financial plan, the draft financial plan. So unless there was any more questions, that's it for that item.
All right, I don't see any other questions, so that brings us to public time. So there's, see one observer online. If you have a question, you can unmute and ask your question. All right. Call one more time. All right, so then that brings us to a closed meeting. The recommendation that we, in the opinion of the committee and in accordance with section 90 of the community charter, the public interest so requires that persons other than directors, alternate directors, delegations, and staff be excluded from the meeting, and further that in accordance with section 90 of the community charter, the meeting be closed on the basis identified in the following sections, 91A. I'll just stop it at that. So a motion moved by Director Lockwood, second by Director Schwenk. All those in favor? Motion is carried.
I can't lock the meeting from mine. Can I just grab the mouse there for
Oh,
1
you bet.
second?
I haven't used it.
You still have quite a few people online, by the way, with no camera.
Yeah, no, we're just working on that.
Okay.